$5K a day giveaway.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yes!
This is the Ross Kaminsky Show.
You're a great American.
Now, Ross Kaminsky.
Come on, man.
On Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW.
All right, good morning. Here we are. Happy Tuesday. A snowy morning here in the Denver area. Be careful if you're driving around today. Boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. And I'm just trying to get my thoughts organized because there are so many things. And then whenever I go into the control room before the show and producer Shannon and I start talking about something, and then I feel like I got another thing I need to talk about on the show in addition to everything that I already had planned, which
producer
I never did.
Shannon.
Exactly, producer Shannon. Producer Shannon and I were just talking about how it feels like so much time and energy is spent by some major sections of the American population, especially the commanding heights of culture, if you will, talking and thinking about things that don't matter very much and ignoring things that matter a lot. And you know what? This brings me back to the conversation that my dad and I had several days ago that I mentioned to you on the show. Well, I guess the conversation was a little over a week ago now, but I've made it the subject of my poll question right now. And here's how this works. In fact, I'm going to go to rosskaminsky.com right now so I can look at this while I'm talking about it. Okay, so if you go to rosskaminsky.com and right under my picture, it says Ross's poll. You click on that and it will bring up the current poll question. Here's what it says. As we watch the leftward march of this country, Ross thinks the USA and freedom can be saved. Ross's dad thinks it's too late and the country we knew is lost. Who do you think is right? And then there's two choices for the poll question. One is Ross, fighting for freedom is worth it and can be successful. And the other choice is Ross's dad, we've already lost this war for the American mind. And you just click on one. And I'm going to leave this up for a day or two, and I will report back with the answers. But please, it'll only take you probably 23 seconds. Good prime number. Go to rosskaminsky.com, click on Ross's poll under my picture, and click on this thing, and tell me which one you believe. I am so interested in the answers here, what you think about this. I have to tell you, when I first brought it up on the air, there were a lot more people who agreed with my dad than who agreed with me. A lot more people who think this country is lost. I would say that the country has felt that way in the past. The world has felt that way in the past. Certain points in the world wars, for example, where it seemed like maybe everything was lost, and yet somehow America and Americans find a way. We've seen this story just in the past couple of days of this parent at a fancy private school in New York writing this very public letter telling the school that all their so-called anti-racist stuff is insane, that it's a form of propaganda that just shows how little commitment that school's management, and by extension the political left overall, how little commitment they actually have to diversity. When the left says diversity, what they mean is a whole bunch of people who look different but who think exactly the same, and people are starting to wake up. The other thing that I'd say, and I suppose for me this would apply in a way, whether you agree with me or with my dad, I would find life to be a lot less meaningful if I truly believed that my dad was right. Like, if I truly believed we'd lost in a way that there's no coming back from, especially as a parent of two teenagers with so much, theoretically, ahead of them still in life, I think it would be very difficult to go on. You know, it'd be very difficult to find the motivation to get up every day to come do this job. I mean, part of the reason I love this job is I feel like on the margins, on my own small scale, I can make a little bit of a difference. Oh, interesting point, Shannon. It doesn't exactly relate, but I'll bring it up anyway. I told producer Shannon this morning that I recently found a good offer, because that is what is important to me, on something I'd been thinking about buying for quite some time and hadn't really gotten around to. And I bought these 2 buckets, each of which I think is a 30-day supply for 4 people of food, and essentially dehydrated food. I mean, I know this sounds super prepper, and I'm really not. I do have plenty of guns and ammo, but I don't really think the revolution is coming. And I don't think of myself as a prepper. I bought this food so that, not because I think there's going to be some massive war or the novel 1 Second After with the EMP that shuts everything down, although you can't entirely rule it out. But I bought it just to sort of be prepared, like, it's $130 or something for a bunch of food that lasts for 20 years. So it's kind of like, why not? To me, it's sort of the moral equivalent of, what? Keeping a gas can with 1 or 2 gallons of gas in it and a little fuel stabilizer in it, of course, so the gasoline doesn't lose its potency while it's sitting there. But just keeping a gallon or 2 of gas in the car in case you run out of gas and you need to put a half a gallon in your car to get somewhere, or you run out of gas in the snowblower and you need to clear your driveways. And just this little thing to have in the background that costs relatively little, and it's like an insurance policy. Except it's like an insurance policy that I don't have to keep paying for every month, right? So yeah, I did buy this kind of backup food, and I'll probably buy a few 5-gallon, those plastic water things, and just keep them in my basement. And yeah, it doesn't mean I think the world is coming to an end, because I really don't. But to the extent that I thought or think there is a hypothetical problem that could come my way that would result in, needing to use emergency food supplies, it's not the same kind of problem that I'm talking about when my dad thinks that the country is lost. And when I'm asking you this question, it's not that I think we're going to have some kind of massive political upheaval that's going to make it impossible to go to the supermarket. That's definitely not what I mean. I'm thinking more of some kind of natural disaster or, something like that. Anyway, so yeah, I do have that stuff at home now. And it does make you feel slightly prepperish, even though I don't feel that way in my brain. Anyway, please go to rosskaminsky.com, under my picture, click on Ross's poll, and answer the question: do you agree with Ross that this country can be saved, or do you agree with my dad that we've already lost? And I suppose the question infers or assumes that you oppose this radical leftward march that we've been seeing in our country for a while. All right, there are a few things we need to talk about today. Just first, very briefly, the Derek Chauvin trial went to the jury yesterday. The judge made some very interesting comments about Maxine Waters and about the stuff that she had said, where she had called for guilty, 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 and said we need to be more confrontational if the verdict isn't murder. And the judge not only made some very harsh comments about politicians and mentioned Maxine Waters by name, actually, he also talked about how it is utterly inappropriate for politicians not to talk about a case necessarily, but to talk about it in a way that seems designed to and likely to negatively impact the operation of the justice system in a way that is fair and impartial. And he even mentioned to the defense attorney, but this is, in public, in front of the prosecution and in front of a microphone that was broadcasting to the public. He even said to the defense attorney, it's possible that Maxine Waters may have given you an issue to use on appeal that could overturn the results of this trial. But Maxine Waters, she's going to be 84 sometime this year, I think, and she doesn't care. I mean, she's all about Maxine Waters. I mean, she's a congresswoman from L.A. who went to Minneapolis to rile up mobs in the street. You know what she's about. You know what she's about. She's not a well-intended person. She's a bad person. She's a bad person who does what bad people do. I saw a bunch of stories yesterday of similar tone in American and foreign media outlets. And I'll give you one. This one's from NPR. It says, in Minneapolis, residents and law enforcement alike brace for Chauvin trial verdict. That's one. There were other places that are talking about governor calling up the National Guard in preparation for the Chauvin trial, but there's not in Minnesota, somewhere else. In a British newspaper's website that said America braces for the Chauvin trial verdict. And all of these things, all of these places are talking about the expectation that almost no matter what the verdict is, there's going to be some kind of, not just protests, but riots and violence and looting in the streets. And look, we all know what's going on here. It's just like the protests this summer, okay? Just like it, where there are, I don't know, I'm going to be really generous here. 17% of the people out in the streets are actually committed to so-called social justice and really want to protest against stuff that is going on or going wrong in their minds. And all the rest are either just out to be involved in something and we're going to go out and walk around and, entertain ourselves, or out to take advantage of the situation and loot the liquor store and the Target and the Foot Locker and just get whatever you can under the cover of protesting while police are busy with the protests. And as I saw headline after headline after headline that included the exact language like the country or the city is bracing for the verdict, I just kept coming back to something that I've mentioned on the air repeatedly. And that is, why do we accept, even a little bit, even if we just tut-tut or tisk-tisk at it, why do we implicitly accept that after a jury verdict, and by the way, there's a bunch of black folks, some white folks, a couple of mixed race people on this jury. It's not like it's a jury of all white people or all former cops or something. It's a very carefully selected jury that is truly representative of the community, and I believe it's more African American than not. Why do we accept that the result is something we need to brace for? Why do we need to brace for legal reactions, civil reactions? And I'm down with protesting. If you don't like the result and you want to get out there and you want to march down the street and yell and wave signs and protest and talk about what you'd like or don't like and maybe try to get people to vote differently in the next election and all of that, without hurting people and without breaking things, go for it. That is in the best tradition of the United States of America, even if I don't agree with you on a particular thing. Go for it. But why should we be bracing? Bracing? Doesn't bracing mean that, when you're about to get in a car crash or that your airplane's going down, the pilot says, brace yourself, right? You brace yourself when something bad is about to happen, when something is about to hit you. And when you're facing something that you know is coming and you can't stop it, as Shannon said, inevitable. The plane is going down. The pilot knows he's not going to be able to pull out of the crash. Brace yourself. Why should we brace ourselves? What are we bracing ourselves against? That people are going to break into the business that we own and steal our stuff and smash the windows? Why would we brace ourselves? Why would we not instead stand in our business with a pump-action shotgun loaded with, number 6 seems like it would do well, right? Might go with number 7. I don't want a slug, because I don't necessarily want to blow someone's head off, and also a slug is only one thing. I might need to hit 2 or 3 people coming in at the same time. So I'm thinking number 6 or number 7 shot would be pretty good. But if I don't have a shotgun available, I'll stand there with my Springfield XDM 9mm and feel fine about it. Why aren't we allowed to use force, including deadly force? And by the way, in this case, the definition of deadly force doesn't mean force that ends up resulting in somebody's death. It just means force that could theoretically result in somebody's death, right? So if I use a handgun and shoot somebody in the arm and they're kind of hurt, but they're nowhere near dying and they don't die, that's still deadly force. I'm going to say this again. We should absolutely be allowed to use deadly force to protect our property. Then there will be a lot less bracing to do. You own that foot. Now, look, I don't know that Foot Locker is going to make that decision. They might, as a corporation, say we'd rather just let our store be looted than end up with the potential black eye, or who knows what, worse than a black eye, of shooting somebody, or have our security guard shoot somebody. But if it were my business and it was just, Ross's store, and I'm selling like solder of fortune wires that we're making, right? And they want to come in and steal my excellent stereo interconnects. Dude, I'm standing there with a gun and I will stop you. Why should I have to brace for you because you didn't like the result of a trial in another state even? It's out of control. When are we going to get things in perspective in this country? We'll be right back with the great Andy McCarthy.
KHOW Denver, 630 KHOW, an iHeartRadio station. Available everywhere on our free iHeartRadio app. #1 for music, radio, and podcasts, all in one. Now, Impact Traffic.
This report is sponsored